5:40 6:40 শেষ ओम तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Mokathita, as recorded by M, disciple and apostle of Sri Ramakrishna. কলিকাতায় শ্রী ঈশ্বরচন্দ্র বিদ্যাসাগরের সঙ্গে শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণের মিলন. Sri Ramakrishna's meeting with Sri Ishwarachandra Vidyasagar in Calcutta. विज्ञानी देखे जिनी ब्रह्म तिनी भगवान, जिनी गुणातीत तिनी षडैश्वर्य पूर्ण भगवान. ए जीव जगत मन बुद्धि भक्ति वैराग्य ज्ञान ए सब तार ऐश्वर्य. It's a very interesting statement that he makes here. Vijnani, a person who is a Purna Jnani, Vishesha Jnani, has acquired special knowledge. That means a person who has attained a knowledge of Brahman, thereafter he sees that the same Brahman is manifest everywhere as the Atman, as the Jiva, the beings, as the Jagat, this universe, and so on. This entire world is permeated by the Supreme Brahman. Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. As the Ishavasya Upanishad says, this entire world, the universe of beings should be pervaded, enveloped, covered by God. So he is a Vijnani who, without renouncing the Advaita Jnana, the supreme knowledge of oneness with God, retaining it fully, compromising not with the supreme reality of oneness, sees the same manifestation of the one reality everywhere. This is a very peculiar idea which Ramakrishna again and again says, discusses in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, in the Kathamrita. Jnani and Vijnani. Vijnani's realizations go beyond Advaita Jnana, as it were, although the Advaita Jnana is accepted as the highest. You can think of it as a kind of a loop like this. So from Ajnana, you rise up to the pinnacle of Jnana, which is Advaita Jnana. After that, as it were, you come down and remain at a level as the devotee of God, retaining the Advaita Jnana, but remaining at a level when you see the same God present everywhere. So in that sense, Advaita Jnana is the ultimate, highest, and Dvaita and Vijnana Jnana, although it appears to be lower than the Advaita Jnana, it goes beyond it. So you go on the top, overshoot it and come down as it were, and remain as a Vijnani. There's no going up or coming down in consciousness, but the way in which we try to explain it and we try to understand it through our little minds. Jini Brahma Tini Bhagavan. So that Brahman is Nirguna, also is Gunamaya, Nirguna Gunamaya, Niranjana Nara Rupathara. Swami Vivekananda spoke of Ramakrishna himself in these terms. He is Brahman, and the same Brahman is also Bhagavan. Jini Gunatita Tini Shadaishwarya Purna Bhagavan. He is beyond all qualities. Gunatita, Trigunatita is beyond Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. He is beyond Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti and Turiya, and he is the infinite reality. But he alone is the Shadaishwarya Purna Bhagavan. The Aishwarya, which is this world, is also he alone. E Jiva Jagat Manubuddhi Bhakti Vairagya Gyan Eshoptar Aishwarya. His glory, His majesty, His infinite qualities are this entire world. Vibhuti, as the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita says, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashayastitaha, the first Vibhuti of God. The Vibhuti of God, the glory of God is the Atman. That He is the Atman in all beings. Jiva Jagat, Manobuddhi, the mind and the intellect, Bhaiti Vairagya Jnana, devotion, dispassion to the world, Jnana, knowledge, all of them are only the Aishwarya, the glory of the infinite reality. The same infinite reality can also be manifest as the finite through this world. So He is both finite and infinite, transcendental and immanent, relative and absolute, Nirguna and Gunamaya, with qualities and without qualities, and so on. Je babur ghor dwar nei, hoyto bikiye gelo, she babu kisher babu. He's making fun. Babu in Bengali means a very rich man. A gentleman is called a Babu, and a very rich man whom everybody obeys, everybody fears. So that the Babu had so many houses and so many different cars and this and that, so much of money. So now he has no house, everything has been sold out, and is just bereft of all the great property that he had. What kind of Babu is he? Shakalir Hash, everybody laughs. Ishvara Shadaishvarya Purno. It's called Ishvara because Aishwarya is there, therefore it's called Ishvara. Shadaishvarya, Jnana, Shakti, Bala, 6 Aishwaryas are mentioned. She Viktir, Je Viktir, Aishwarya na thakto, tahale ke manto. If God did not have this Aishwarya, the whole world of Maya is His. He is the world, He is Jiva Jagat, the beings and the entire universe. He is the mind, He is the intellect, and He is everything. Unless He had this kind of Aishwarya and the glory, who would have really cared for that kind of God? And everybody is laughing. See how such simple language explains. So, your devotion, bhakti to the Saguna Brahman, to Bhagavan, and your realization of the transcendental realm are not contradictory to each other, not even that one is superior to the other, but after realizing the Saguna aspect, that aspect of God with qualities, then you go beyond that and realize Him in the absolute transcendental. Then he says, Ramakrishna says, there is a state in which you come down and remain as a child of God, as a devotee of God. Because you can't stay in that state always. You can if you like, but you will not be able to live long and you will not be useful to the world. That's the beauty. A person who, after having the highest realization, comes down to help mankind, he is a Vijnani. He distributes this knowledge to everybody how to awaken the spiritual consciousness of all beings in this world, to help them to realize their divine nature. His whole mission in life, the Vijnani, is to awaken the spiritual consciousness of humanity. As Swami Shivanandaji, the monastic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the second president of the Ramakrishna Mutt and the Ramakrishna Mission, once said, Sri Ramakrishna has awakened the Kula Kundalini, the cosmic Kundalini of the whole universe. And therefore the individual Kundalinis of beings who are parts of this cosmic being will very quickly awaken. So he is a Vijnani who goes beyond Jnana, as it were, and subsumes Jnana, capable of moving between the absolute and the relative, the transcendental, the immanent, the many and the one. দেখো না এই জগৎ কি চমৎকার, কত রকম জিনিস, চন্দ্র, সূর্য, নক্ষত্র, কত রকম জীব, বড় ছোট, ভালো মন্দ, কারো বেশি শক্তি, কারো কম শক্তি. So he says, Ramakrishna says, just see, how wonderful is this world, how extraordinary, how marvelous is the creation, how many varieties of things have been created by God, the sun and the moon and the stars, how many varieties of various beings, jivas, big, small, good, bad, and some beings so powerful and some others not so powerful, with varieties of endowment of power. How marvelous, how wonderful. Then Vidyasagar asks a simple question. তিনি কি কারোকে বেশি শক্তি, কারোকে কম শক্তি দিয়েছেন? Is it that God has endowed some people with greater power and some people with lesser power? Sri Ramakrishna, very profound, important statement. Mark this. তিনি বিভুরূপে সর্বভূতে আছেন পিঁপড়েতে পর্যন্ত, কিন্তু শক্তি বিশেষ. Mark this, meditate upon this. Let us try to understand this. বিভুরূপে সর্বত্র আছেন, সর্বভূতে আছেন. As Vibhu, all pervading, vast, infinite, he is present in all beings, even in an ant. The tiniest ant also carries the signature of God. That infinite reality is also there in that little ant. But, kintu, Shakti Visesh, the manifestation of power is different in different beings. Again, I read this very, very important sentence. তিনি বিভুরূপে সর্বভূতে আছেন পিঁপড়েতে পর্যন্ত, কিন্তু শক্তি বিশেষ. Is a vast, infinite reality, transcendent and absolute. He is present in all beings, even in the smallest and tiniest ant. The same infinite reality is present, but the manifestation of power is different in different beings. তা না হলে একজন লোকে 10 জনকে হারিয়ে দেয়, আবার কেউ একজনের কাছ থেকে পালায়, আর তা না হলে তোমাকেই বা সবাই মানে কেন? He gives a very simple, homely example. If it is not so, how is it that one person so powerful and then he defeats 10 people in battle? And again, how is it before one person some people run away? আবার কেউ একজনের কাছ থেকে পালায়. Somebody can fight battle with 10 people and defeat them, and some people cannot even face one. They have to run away from him out of fear. Why is it so? Because the manifestation of power is different. And he says, I'll give a simplest example in front of Vidyasagar. He says, if it is not so, why have all of us come to see you? তোমাকেই বা সবাই মানে কেন? Why is it so many people worship you, so many people come to you, so many people are attracted to you? তোমার কি শিং বেরিয়েছে দুটো? Have you grown through horns that people have come to see you? Harsh, everybody laughs. He gives the explanation himself. তোমার দয়া, তোমার বিদ্যা আছে অন্যের চেয়ে, তাই তোমাকে লোকে মানে দেখতে আসে। You have so much of compassion and mercy in your heart, and you have such great, vast learning and knowledge in your head compared to many others. And therefore people come to see you, and people worship you, people admire you, people respect you. তুমি এই কথা মানো কি না? Do you accept this statement? Vidyasagar mrudu mrudu hasitechen. Vidyasagar is gently smiling. So this is a very, very important statement. You should never mistake that all men are equal. As the infinite reality, God is present in all men, they are equal. But manifestation is different. Manifestation means through Prakriti. What is Prakriti? The body and the mind. When the infinite reality manifests through the finite body-mind in this world, the Shakti is different. So, as long as you think of the Absolute beyond the body-mind, beyond time and space and causation, that is infinite, absolute, unchangeable one. But the moment the one infinite absolute gets manifested as the many through Prakriti, through nature, through the body-mind, then the manifestation cannot be equal in all beings. In the small ant, the manifestation is less. In a big elephant, the manifestation may be more. But the core of the ant as well as the elephant is the same infinite reality. This has to be very, very clearly understood in philosophy and in Vedanta. We are not one with Ishvara. We are one with all as Brahman and not Ishvara. Let us try to understand a little more deeply. Ishvara is the highest reading of the Absolute through space, time and causation, Maya. This is Swami Vivekananda's definition. You and I are also manifested through space, time, causation. So what is the difference? The manifestation of power, Shadaishwarya, is the highest in Ishvara, and in an ant or a small insect, it is the lowest. So these two cannot be equated as one at the level of manifestation. But the unmanifested reality, the supreme reality, which is Brahman, is the same in all beings because Brahman is one. The example usually given, out of clay, so many small images are made. In Durga Puja, for example, the image of Durga, the image of Lakshmi, Saraswati, Ganesha, Kartikeya, then you have Mahishasura, the Simha lion, and so on. The peacock, Mayura, who is the Vahana of Kartikeya, and the Hamsa, the Vahana of Saraswati, so many things. So many images are being made out of clay. But all of them are clay. As clay, they are the same. Remember this. As clay, a mouse which is made of clay, a small rat or a cat, and a huge elephant made of clay, they are one as clay, not as manifestations. The clay mouse and the clay elephant are the same as clay when they are unmanifested before the formation of clay mouse or clay elephant. But as manifestations, mouse and elephant, they cannot be the same. What makes the difference? Vedanta says Nama Rupa, the name and form. Clay, when it is formed into a small rat or a mouse, Ganesha's Vahana, mouse, and Durga Vahana, Simha. Are they the same? As clay they are the same, but as manifestations as Namarupa, name and form, the name and form of a mouse and the name and form of Simha are not the same. So all of us jivas are one with Brahman and not one with Ishvara. Don't say, I am the Supreme Ishvara. You are not Ishvara, but you are Brahman as the infinite consciousness, which manifests as Ishvara, which manifests as you, the being. Let's think of a simple example. At the end of the Durga Puja, on the last day, on Dashami, the Durga Pratima is immersed in waters, in the Ganges. The clay simply melts away, all the images simply melt away and become clay. So somebody says, hey, is the immersion over? Yes, just now with the immersion we did. Oh, it's all melting. Can you bring some Durga clay? Can you bring some Ganesha clay? Is it possible? Now there is no Ganesha clay or Durga clay. Clay is clay. Clay became the Durga image and became the Ganesha image by assuming name and form through manifestation. When the manifestation goes away, it goes into the unmanifested state. Then the Durga clay and the Ganesha clay are not anymore in existence. So he says here, Vibhurupe Sarvabhute Achen, Pipidete te Parjanto, Kintu Shakti Visesh. As the Vibhu, infinite, all-pervading reality, he is there everywhere. He is pervading the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets on the one side, and the smallest of the small atoms and particles, the smallest insect and ant, up to the huge elephant and so on. Men, women, animals, children, everybody is pervaded by the same infinite consciousness. But in the manifestation they are different. A fish is able to swim and a bird is able to fly. They are the same consciousness. How is it one consciousness flies, other consciousness does not fly, cannot swim? It is not consciousness swimming. It is consciousness manifested in the body and the mind of a bird which is swimming, which is flying. Consciousness which is manifested in the body and the mind of a fish which is swimming. So flying in the air and swimming in the waters, being done by the manifested bird or the manifested fish, does not make the fish and the bird the same, except as unmanifested consciousness, which is their real nature as infinite reality of consciousness. This has to be very, very clearly understood. Let us not glibly say, I am that Bhagavan, I am that Supreme. You are not Bhagavan, you are that Brahman as consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna. Shudhu Panditya kichu nai, তাঁকে পাওয়ার উপায়, তাঁকে জানবার জন্যই বই পড়া. Mere scholarship is absolutely useless. Books should be studied for realizing God, for knowing Him and for nothing else. একটি সাধুর পুঁথিতে কে কি আছে একজন জিজ্ঞাসা করলে, সাধু খুলে দেখালে পাতায় পাতায় ওম রাম লেখা আছে, আর কিছুই লেখা নাই। A holy man, a sadhu, was carrying a big book. Person said, "Such a book you are carrying? What does it contain?" He opened the book and saw every page it is written Om Rama, Om Rama, Om Rama, or nothing else. That means it is the same infinite consciousness which is all pervading everywhere. And any study is only for realizing God, for the infinite, and not for acquisition of knowledge. Recently I was reading in Ramakrishna First Education Commission in independent India. There he quotes, "Where is the wisdom which we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge which we have lost in information?" In 20 centuries, that means since the advent of Christ, we seem to have moved farther from God, nearer to the dust. T.S. Eliot, famous poem. Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? We are pursuing knowledge, studying so many things, but the knowledge has not matured into wisdom, and the higher wisdom has not awakened within us. Where is the wisdom that we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge that we have lost in information? Even knowledge is a very high state of experience, but we go on collecting data and information. So as they say, data leads to information, information leads to knowledge, and knowledge ultimately leads to wisdom. I think it was Bertrand Russell who said, "Unless man increases in wisdom as much as in knowledge, mere increase of knowledge will only result in increase of sorrow." We are seeing it every day. People who are knowledgeable, highly read, go on studying books and writing papers, attending conferences, are the people with deep sorrow, unable to adjust with anybody, full of their little egos, quarreling and fighting with people. What is the use of that kind of knowledge? Knowledge should give you the wisdom, should bring calmness. Vidya dadati vinayam. Famous quote in Sanskrit. Vidya, knowledge, should give you humility. Humility that how little we know. Such a vast knowledge mountain is there, mountain of knowledge, how little I know. Sri Ramakrishna's famous example, an ant went to a sugar hill. And after going to the sugar hill, it just picked up one grain of sugar and ate. And its stomach was full. Then it took one more in its mouth and slowly walked back in a little hole. While coming back, it said, looking back at the sugar hill, "Next time on, I will drag the entire hill and put it in my little hole." Such is the arrogance of the human mind. As if I understood everything. How little have we understood? Sorrow cannot go unless you acquire the wisdom through which you can intuit the supreme consciousness that is God. Mere study of books and acquisition of knowledge will not release you from sorrow. The famous story in the Chandogya Upanishad, Narada Sanat Kumara Samvada, brings this out so dramatically, so poignantly. Narada was a great scholar, studied so much. But full of sorrow. Shochami, he says, I'm so full of sorrow. I'm grieving. I studied so much, but I'm grieving. He goes to Sanat Kumara, the great sage. Sir, please take me beyond sorrow. Shokasya param tarayatu. I know that only a person who has realized his higher self, the consciousness, can go beyond sorrow. Only if you realize your higher self can you cross the ocean of sorrow. So please take me beyond sorrow. Then he makes a profound statement. Tarati shokam atmavid. Atmavid, the person knows the higher self of consciousness in man, in the human being, in one's heart. He crosses beyond sorrow. Tarati shokam. This small sentence, pithy sentence, comprising just 3 words, Tarati shokam atmavit, is the very basis of the entire structure of Indian spiritual mansion or edifice. Thousands of years of spirituality that has been acquired and preserved in ancient India. The huge mansion has as its base this small pithy sentence of 3 words, Tarati Shokam Atmavit. Only an Atmavit, a person who has realized his higher self, crosses beyond the ocean of samsara, the ocean of sorrow. Sir, shokasya param tarayatu. Shochami, I'm so full of sorrow. Terrible sorrow is now gnawing at my heart. Please do take me beyond sorrow. Then Sanat Kumara, the great guru, the sage, smiles and says, my child, tell me what you have studied and I can teach you further. Then Narada gives a huge list of what he has studied. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, the 4 Vedas I have thoroughly studied. Then Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotishi, 6 Vedangas, auxiliary to the Vedas I have studied. Then Dhana Vidya, Rashi Vidya, Sarpa Vidya, Nakshatra Vidya, so many 25, 30 Vidyas I have studied, but still I have no peace. I have no joy. Please take me beyond sorrow. Then Sanat Kumara makes a very simple statement, pricking the ego of this great learner, scholar Narada. You have only memorized some formula, mantravadevaham, natu atmavid. He knew about it. Namaivetat. You have only memorized some names. Narada says, when he approaches Sanat Kumara, Mantravideva aham natu atmavid. I am only a mantravid. I have only memorized, known certain formulae, mantras, but I am not an atmavid. So he says, what is the use of mere scholarship and reading books? Unless you realize the Supreme, mere scholarship is useless. Then Ramakrishna says, Gitaar ortho ki 10 বার বললে যা হয়। গীতা 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 10 বার বলতে গেলে ত্যাগী 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 হয়ে যায়। It is not tyagi, it is tagi, but tagi and tyagi are the same. গীতায় এই শিক্ষা, হে জীব সব ত্যাগ করে ভগবানকে লাভ করার চেষ্টা করো। সাধুই হোক, সংসারী হোক, মন থেকে সব আসক্তি ত্যাগ করতে হয়। So he says, you go on memorizing the verses of Gita and repeating them, nothing will be of any avail unless you realize the essence of the Gita. What is that? You repeat Gita 10 times, then Gita becomes Tagi. Tyagi and Tagi are the same. Tyagi means give up, give up, give up, renounce. Renounce what? Renounce your little ego, your attachment, and take refuge in God. So unless a scholar has Vairagya Viveka, this passion for the world and discernment between the real and the unreal, eternal and the non-eternal, a mere scholar is absolutely useless to himself and to society. চৈতন্যদেব যখন দক্ষিণে তীর্থ ভ্রমণ করছিলেন, দেখলেন একজন গীতা পড়ছে, আর একজন একটু দূরে বসে আছে আর কাঁদছে, কেঁদে চোখ ভেসে যাচ্ছে। When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the famous Sri Krishna Chaitanya from Bengal, Ramakrishna used to say he is an avatara, premier avatar, full of divine love, ecstatic love for God. When he was touring on a pilgrimage in the southern part of India, he saw a person listening to the Gita, recital of Gita, and tears were flowing down his cheeks. চৈতন্যদেব জিজ্ঞাসা করলেন, তুমি এইসব বুঝতে পারছো? Chaitanya asked him, do you understand the meaning of what is being recited there? সে বললে, ঠাকুর, আমি শ্লোক এসব কিছু বুঝতে পারছি না। তিনি জিজ্ঞাসা করলেন, তবে কেন কাঁদছো? Then he said, oh, sir, holy man, I can't understand a word of these various verses and shlokas. Then why are you crying? ভক্তটি বললে, আমি দেখছি অর্জুনের রথ, আর তার সামনে ঠাকুর আর অর্জুন কথা করছেন, তাই দেখে আমি কাঁদছি। Sir, I am seeing the chariot of Arjuna, and in front of that, Arjuna is sitting depressed, and Sri Krishna Bhagavan is teaching Arjuna. I see this divine scene and tears come to me. That means through the intellect you can't understand the Gita or any divine scripture. But to feel it in the heart with tremendous devotion and faith and get elevated in inner consciousness and live that consciousness in daily life. That consciousness which has been awakened in you, which should envelop you, the whole universe, and see yourself in part of that consciousness, whole universe is in that consciousness, and feel oneness with all, then alone you are elevated. Then alone you have realized the essence of books and the scriptures. Pothi padi padi jugu bhaya, pandit bhaya na koi, dhai akshar prem ka pade so pandit hoi. Kabir Das says, so many books he goes on reading, such a person cannot become a pandit. Who can become a pandit? A person who has studied a small word of 2.5 letters, prema. Ma is 1 letter, pa is 1 letter, that ra is half. Dhai akshar prema ka pade so pandita hoi. Divine ecstatic love for God, a person who has acquired that, he alone becomes a great pandit, scholar. The second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse, Ashocyanan vashochastvam pragyavadascha bhashase gataso nagatasonscha nanushochante panditaha. Gataso nagatasonscha, for the living and the dead, a person does not grieve, he is a pandita. De Shankaracharya, the Bhashyakara, writes, what is pandita? Panda Atma Vishaya Buddhihi Esham Te Panditaha. Panda is Atma Vishaya Buddhi. That buddhi, that intelligence, that supreme intuitive higher understanding which reveals the Atman. And a person who possesses this kind of buddhi, which is self-revealing buddhi, he is called a pandita. Panda Atmavishaya Buddhihi Esham Te Panditaha. So he is a scholar, pandita, who has realized the content of the scriptures as expressing the divine consciousness which you and everybody else is. You are, and everybody else, the whole universe is. So merely intellectual understanding will be or not of any avail. Bhakti Yoger Rahasya Pancham Pariched, the secret of dualism. Bhakti Yoga. Sri Ramakrishna, Vigyani কেন ভক্তি লয়ে থাকে? এর উত্তর এই যে আমি যাই না, সমাধি অবস্থায় যাই বটে, কিন্তু আবার এসে পড়ে। আর সাধারণ জীবের অহম যায় না। অশ্বত্থ গাছ কেটে দাও, আবার তার পরদিন ফেকড়ি বেরিয়েছে। সকলের হাস্য। Here's a very simple examples. Vijnani holds on to bhakti, divine love and devotion, in order to live in the body even after acquiring Brahmajnana. This is Ramakrishna's thesis regarding Vijnani. Why does he do so? He's explaining, this I does not so easily go. In this avastha of samadhi, in the state of samadhi, it may go, definitely, but again when you come down from samadhi, it jumps on you. And ordinary people, the eye does not go at all. He gives the example, the ashwatha, the people tree, if you cut so that you want to destroy the tree, again one small sprout will come. So the aham, with great difficulty, push the aham down, either by jnana vichara or by surrender, and you think you are safe, and suddenly from somewhere it comes. That's why karma yoga reveals to you how much of ego you have. Sitting silent and meditating, you have no problem. When sitting silent, everybody is a Paramahamsa. The moment you come out of your silent meditation and react to the world, how much you can bear, how much you can talk, that strength you will have. After realizing God in its finite and infinite aspects, transcendental and relative aspects, impersonal and personal aspects, the entire gamut of experience you have, then remain as child of God. This is the state of Vijnana. So what is the ego of a Vijnani? Because Vijnani, in order to live in the world and move in the world of relativity, you should have to have some kind of I. He says he remains a child of God. I am the child of God. I am a servant of God. Ramakrishna says, Thakshala dasami. Shala is a word used in Bengali. It's a slang word for scolding somebody, for calling somebody names. It's not very severe scolding. It's a funny slang. Let that rascal ego remain as a child of God. Thakshala dasvami hoye. Thakshala bhaktavami hoye. Let it remain as a devotee of God, as a child of God, as a servant of God. Shankaracharya Vidyarami rekhe chilen. He says, Shankaracharya lived as a Vijnani, retaining the ego of knowledge. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bhakti Rami rekhe chilen. জ্ঞান লাভের পরও আবার কোথা থেকে আমি এসে পড়ে। Even after realizing knowledge, acquiring knowledge, from somewhere this I comes and peeps in. স্বপনে বাঘ দেখেছিল, তারপর জাগলে তবু তোমার বুক দুড় করছে। So such a simple, practical, daily life examples here goes Ramakrishna. That is the beauty of the Avatara, for whom the truth is so simple, he doesn't need to complicatedly explain it in a complicated fashion. In the dreams, you see a tiger chasing you. Tiger is chasing you, run and run and run. Suddenly you wake up. Even then, the palpitation of the heart doesn't cease. You know what you dreamt was nothing, is a non-entity, there is no tiger, nothing was happening. But still, the reaction on the body, the palpitation of the heart continues, although you know that is unreal. He gives this example to show, even though you may have acquired knowledge, Jnani you may become, but still this little I, it is a very innocent I, still continues. Jiver amiloi to joto jontrana. So an extraordinary statement which needs to be studied and studied and studied and understood and put in practice in our daily life. All our problems arise with a little ego. The I am ego of scholarship and ego of beauty and ego of degrees and ego of position. Every little thing is based on your ego. My ego. You know who I am? The ego comes. Joto jantrana, all the problems, all terrible conflicts and sorrows, they arise from the ami, the ego, the aham in a jiva. He gives a wonderful example. A cow normally cries out, Hamba, Hamba, Hamba. Means I, ami. You will always see the cows crying like that. Goru, Hamba, Hamba, ami kore, tai to jantrana. The moment he goes on saying, I, terrible sorrow continuously is chasing it. যখন তুমি তুমি বলে তখন নিস্তার. When it says you, thou, then he is free from sorrow. Ramakrishna came out with a beautiful mantra. Swami Akhandanandaji, the third president of the order, obviously is a Parshada, a great man of realization. He used to say, Naham, Naham, Tuhu. This is Ramakrishna's formula. Not I, O Lord, thou, O thou. Not I, but you. He used to say, Akhandanandaji, this is Ramakrishna's great mantra. Go on chanting this mantra, you will get realization. Naham, Naham, Tuhu. Naham, Naham, Tuhu. Naham, Tuhu. This is a great practice. Repeat this because it is Ramakrishna's words as a mantra and testified by his dear disciple Swami Akhandananda Gangadhar. Repeat this. Meditate on this. Do japa of Naham, Naham, Tuhu. Not mechanically till your ego is completely erased. Your ego should be pounded, erased and burnt away if you want peace. If you don't do that, nature will make you do. He's explaining now. What happens that a cow will say, hamba, ai. Langale jude, রোদ বৃষ্টি গায়ের উপর দিয়ে যায়, আবার কষায়ে কাটে, চামড়ায় জুতো হয়, ঢোল হয়, তখন খুব পেটে হাসে. Everybody laughs. It's a cow, it's a bullock. So you take the bullock, what do? They put it in the yoke and come on, go round. Because at the bullock cart, it's put in a cart, it's put in by a farmer, he goes round farming. Then constantly it is being beaten. Rod vrishti gayurupare diye jai. Terrible heat, terrible sun, terrible rains, and all that it has to work hard. Then, when it cannot work anymore, it is sold out and is being cut. Slaughterhouse, sent to the slaughterhouse. Then the skin is taken out, shoes are prepared, people walk over it, and whole high, they prepare drums out of their skin and keep beating the drum completely. He's explaining. The moment you say, hamba, I, these are the consequences. Finally, terrible beating. Even then, tabu nistarne, constant is getting beaten. Even now, it does not say, you, tuhu. শেষে নাড়ি ভুড়ি থেকে তাঁত তৈয়ার হয়. From the nerves, it takes all the nerves, etc. Then the big instruments, string instruments are being prepared. সেই তাতে ধুনিরির যন্ত্র হয়. Dhunirir jantra, the stringed instruments, when you have tung, etc., you prepare some instruments. তখন আর আমি বলে না, তখন বলে তুহু, অর্থাৎ তুমি. Then, no longer it is possible to say hamba. That bullock was just crying out, hamba, I, ami. Come on, beat it. Put it in the yoke. Make it run. Whole farm has to be properly plowed. Put it in the plow. Then expose it to the sun, terrible heat, terrible rain. Then continuously beat it. When it can't work anymore, slaughterhouse. Then skin is taken out. And it is made into shoes. People walk over it with it. The drum is made and continues, they beat the drum terribly. Even then it does not say, you say tong, tong, tong. Then from the nerves, nadi, then they make stringed instruments, and stringed instruments then tung, 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 tung. Then it says tung, tung, you. Takhon nistar, then it gets peace. He Ishwar, Ami Das, Tumi Prabhu, Ami Chele, Tumi Ma. O God, you are the Ishvara, you are the Supreme Being, and I am your servant. You are the Lord, and I am your son. Tumi Ma, you are my mother, you are my father, I am your child, I am your servant. Naham, Naham, Tuhu, not I, O Lord, but you. Such a dramatic description. This is a story which he gives here. I read the story again. Goru hamba kore, tai to eto jontrona, লাঙ্গুলে জোড়ে রোদ বৃষ্টি গায়ের উপরে দিয়ে যায়, আবার কষাই কাটে, চামড়ায় জুতো হয়, ঢোল হয়, তখন খুব পিটে হাস্য। তবুও নিস্তার নাই। শেষে নাড়ি ভুড়ি থেকে তাঁত তৈয়ার হয়, সেই তাঁতে ধনুরির যন্ত্র হয়। তখন আর আমি বলে না, তখন বলে তুহু অর্থাৎ তুমি। যখন তুমি বলে তখন নিস্তার। হে ঈশ্বর, আমি দাস, তুমি প্রভু, আমি ছেলে, তুমি মা। When the bullock is saying hamba, I, ami, then tremendous suffering it goes through. It's put on the plow and worked terribly hard, exposed to the sun, heat and rains and so on. Then finally it can't work anymore. It becomes weak and old. Then sent to the slaughterhouse, cut to pieces, and the skin is taken out and shoes are made. People walk with it. And huge drums are made and continuously it gets beating. Even then it is no peace. Finally, when they take out all the nerves and make the stringed instrument, and that is when it is played, it says, tuhu, it says, tuhu, then it is peaceful. Not I, O Lord, but thou. রাম জিজ্ঞাসা করলেন, হনুমান, তুমি আমায় কিভাবে দেখো? হনুমান বললে, রাম, যখন আমি বলে আমার বোধ থাকে, তখন দেখতি তুমি পূর্ণ, আমি অংশ, তুমি প্রভু, আমি দাস। আর রাম যখন তত্ত্বজ্ঞান হয়, তখন দেখি তুমি, আমি তুমি। সেব্য সেবক ভাবি ভালো, আমি তো যাবার নয়, তবে থাক শালা দাস আমি হয়ে। Rama asked Hanuman, Mahavir, how do you look upon me? Hanuman said, O Ram, when I feel my sense of ego, then I see that you are that vast infinite. I am a part of yourself. You are the Supreme Lord. I am your servant. And when Tattvajnana arises in me, then I see you are me and I am you. Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita, Advaita. Deha buddhyat dasoham, jiva buddhyat tadamshakaha, atma buddhyat tvamevaham, iti me nischita matihi. This is a statement in Ramayana somewhere. When I have the Deha buddhi, the sense that I am the body, I feel I am a servant. I see I am a servant, eternally related to you, eternally dependent on you, and deriving all my power and glory from you and you alone. When I have Jiva Buddhi, I feel I am the self, I am the Jiva, embodied being. I feel I am also a small bundle of consciousness just like you. You are the infinite, vast consciousness. I am a small bundle of consciousness. Then I feel I am part of you, Visishta Advaita. Then when Tattvajnana arises in me, I feel I am the Atman. Then I realize that I am you and you are me. Then he says, it is better and safer for people like us who have the body sense and which cannot go easily. Sevya Sevaka Bhavi Bhalo. Sevya and Sevaka. Sevaka is a servant. Sevya is a Lord who is going to be served. Lord or Master. This relationship with God is better. Amito Javarni. The I will not so easily go away. The egoity will not die so easily. Tobe Thakshala Daswami Hoye. Let the rascal ego remain as a servant of God. Om Niranjanam Nityamananta Rupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.